Hello! Today, we'll look at After Effects' 3D Camera Tracker, an extremely powerful tool that lets us composite footage and effects into a shot with a moving camera. Begin by importing the project folder. Inside, you have two practice files, Easy Track and Difficult Track. I've also included a few other elements that I used in this video, but feel free to use your own. Drag the Easy Track footage onto the Create New Composition button. This shot is a simple pan and tilt across a park. If I wanted to add an element, say this dinosaur, to my scene, the layer wouldn't move with the camera's path. I could manually animate the position and rotation frame by frame, but this would be extremely tedious and produce a poor result. Instead, the 3D Camera Tracker can analyze the footage and recreate the geometry of the scene, as well as the camera's movement. That makes it easy for us to place new elements inside the scene, and they'll stay put while the real camera moves. To create a camera track, select the footage and go to Animation and Track Camera. The track begins automatically. If your scene includes a camera zoom, which this doesn't, it helps to alert After Effects in advance. When the analysis is complete, After Effects will use the tracking data to recreate the camera movement from the footage. When done, check the advanced properties and locate the average error. An average error under 1 pixel is good, but the lower the better. This shot is fairly simple, so your track should be very accurate. While we're on the subject, it's important to understand the 3D Camera Tracker's limitations. Lens flares, motion blur, a very shallow depth of field, and reflections are all troublesome for the 3D Camera Tracker. Moving subjects, such as birds and cars, can also throw off the track. Be mindful of this, but don't let your software's limitations compromise your artistic vision. There are workarounds for every problem I mentioned, but it might take a little foresight and effort. But when all things are equal, keep post-production in mind during production. Back in the composition panel, move your cursor along the tracking points. After Effects identifies 3 points to triangulate a geometric location. A bullseye graphic represents the position of the plane created from those 3 points. In this shot, the camera tracker identified a panning movement and could not resolve depth in the geometry. That's okay, so don't worry. For the first step of this project, let's create text that tracks with the camera. To do this, right-click anytime you have a red bullseye graphic. From the flyout menu, choose Create Text and Camera. Text and camera layers are added to the timeline. Replace the text and adjust the typeface to suit your taste. When you're satisfied, let's make another text layer to see how this is slightly different. First, we need to retrieve our tracking points. To do this, go to the Easy Track layer and select the 3D Camera Tracker. Select another area to add text. Again, right-click when you found the best spot. This time, there's no option for text and camera because you can only have one camera at a time. Instead, just choose Create Text. You can move this layer if you must, but be careful. Moving too far from its original tracking points could result in a poor track. If you want to move a significant amount, it's best just to identify new tracking points and start over. With the 3D Camera Tracker, I can easily place the dinosaur in this scene, and with a much stabler track. After inserting at least 2 text layers, save your composition and return to the project panel. Drag the Difficult Track video onto the Create New Composition button. Select the layer. Right-click and choose Track Camera. Go to the 3D Tracker effect and open the Advanced settings. This time, check the box next to Detailed Analysis. This will take slightly longer, but After Effects will produce a better track. Unfortunately, my tracking data has an average error of nearly 1.1 pixels, which is too much. But I can fix this by deleting tracking data that's confusing After Effects. Points linked to permanent objects, such as the bridge, ropes, trees, and shoreline, are all good. But After Effects also created tracking points on objects that move, such as the crests of the waves. These points are not helpful to After Effects, as the waves move independently and don't help give a sense of the camera's direction. To improve our track, we need to delete these extra points. To do this, use the Selection tool to click and draw around points you don't want. Then hit Delete. For this scene, most of the points in the water are no good. Once you delete points, they are gone from the rest of the footage. However, new waves are constantly forming and After Effects keeps generating new points that we don't want. So we need to move forward a few frames and clean up more tracking points. Please do not wait for the camera to solve every time you delete a tracking point. This would take forever. Just keep selecting and deleting, then move forward a few frames and continue the process. When finished, let the camera solve and check your error margin. In about 15 minutes, I reduced the error margin from 1.08 pixels to 0.89 pixels, which is a huge improvement. For this project, reduce your average error to 1.0 pixels or lower. In the composition panel, you'll find that After Effects solved the camera with depth, so we have a three-dimensional track. Notice the bullseye graphic conforms to different geometric planes. Now that we have a good track, let's put an image on the side of the bridge. To begin, position your cursor in the area you want to place your image. Try to get the bullseye to align naturally with the bridge. Again, right-click, but this time choose Create Camera and Null Object. Null objects are used as helper objects to mark or control other layers. But for today, just think of a null as a placeholder. Bring an image into the composition. Unlike the text that we just created, this image has not yet been oriented to the camera, so we can't link our image to the null object just yet. The null is in the correct starting position, but notice that the null object has 3 position coordinates, one for the x-axis, one for the y-axis, and one for the z-axis. The logo only has 2, the x and the y. We need to make this image a 3D object so it can live within Z space. To do this, click the last box next to the image layer in the timeline. This makes the layer exist inside 3-dimensional space. Now we can go back to our placeholder, the null object, and put our image in its place. To do this, select the null object's position, go to Edit and Copy. Now select the image and choose Edit and Paste. For the final part of today's project, you'll need to combine the 3D tracking with a skill we've learned previously, creating an obscuration matte. First, choose a place that is at least partially obscured by the bridge. This area on the shore is a good option. Select the difficult track layer and choose the 3D camera tracker to reveal the tracking points. Find a geometric plane that matches where you want your object to live. This looks good, so right-click and choose Create Null Object. Bring your footage into the composition and make it a 3D layer. I included this T-Rex file in the project folder in case you want to use it. Return to the new null object and select the position. Go to Edit and Copy. Go to the new footage layer and then choose Edit and Paste. My dinosaur is in the right space, but he should be behind the bridge. For that, we need an obscuration matte. Return to the difficult track layer and choose the 3D camera tracker. Find a plane that matches the geometry of the bridge. Right-click and choose Create Solid. Then, locate the grid effect and apply it to the solid. Rotate until the grid aligns with the bridge. This gives a visual reference to make sure the solid layer tracks accurately. Turn off the solid's visibility and use the pen tool to draw an obscuration matte around anything you want to block the dinosaur. Place the solid directly above the dinosaur and change the dinosaur's track matte to alpha inverted. Scrub through the timeline to make sure the matte looks accurate. To recap, today's project consists of 5 parts. First, track the easy track footage and insert 2 text layers. Second, track the difficult track footage and reduce the average error below 1 pixel. Third, create a null object and apply an image in the difficult track composition. Fourth, create another null and add a second element that's obscured by the bridge. Finally, create a solid layer and draw an obscuration matte. Have fun inserting footage into a scene with a moving camera. Take a few minutes to brainstorm how this can open up possibilities for your future projects.